Hey, welcome to something we don't do too often, but I actually like this. This is a post-match review. Uh, I'm going to put this for the listeners in public. I won't hide this behind a Patreon because our chat for the match preview, which is on Patreon, was so amazing. It was a wonderful conversation. I feel like the listeners need to get a taste of the wonderful person who is chatting with me, Danny boy. You have one upfront podcast. Come on.
Let's
How's
get
it
in
going?
there. Let's take it apart. Yeah, just on that point, actually. Yeah, I did note before we recorded for the preview that it was a Patreon, but I thought it was still kind of you to give 15 minutes of it as free because I posted that out to loads of people, and people at the ground yesterday said that was so good. I said you didn't even
Oh,
see the
nice.
best bit.
I
The
know you
best
were
bit was after that.
fantastic, but honestly,
So,
that's nice that they enjoyed it. That actually,
oh, they
what
loved
it,
it.
it means a lot, honestly, from someone over here, in the U.S. A
Cool.
little moment of transparency and vulnerability, like that is something as an American we're always trying to like battle against is that imposter syndrome, and we've been at
Yeah.
it for 3 years, which is still relatively early. I've been a fan for a while, but the speaking out about it, standing on your words, it's one of those things. It's a little scary at first, but there are a lot of things that, because some things you say it takes time for them to like fruit. And
Hmm.
one of the ones that I started early on last season at the end of was Arteta and picking at him and may it be time up. And after, I know this isn't has nothing to do with it, but I just want to laugh at them real quick. It's like it's looking real dark, and I'm starting to see the Arteta out, and I'm just loving it because like the Arsenal people were like, "How dare you? He's Wenger. He can stay forever." It's just like that's not the game. That's
I
not
could talk
where
about
we are
Arsenal.
nowadays.
If I have a Premier League team, I can. Well, I could talk about Arsenal before I became like the main voice of Salford City because I
That's
just
fair.
don't have. I mean, how many teams can you cover? It's the same thing. You said,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're American sports." I know you've got a Packers thing up in the background. That you've only got so much time in the day. You've got to sleep.
Yep.
You've got to eat. You've got to have a
Mhm.
life. You've got to work. So yeah, it's everything else apart from Salford City to me is background noise. But Arsenal at one stage, I was big into them. Yeah, big into
That's
them.
fair. And honestly, with the Packers, they have a playoff game today. But when it comes to individual players and things like that, I don't really know anything. I listen to a
Right.
couple of Packers podcasts, so I know names. So when moments happen, I can be like, "Oh, that's that person." But I am not the how locked in I am to Man City
That's
in
it.
all the other sports. The gap is wide.
Oh,
Yes.
one of the things somebody said to me actually, in fact, it was my wife. She listened to the Patreon part, the free 15 minutes, and she said, "Tell him next time you speak to him, when he says Salford,
It's
it's
Salford.
Sol.
Soul.
It's an
Soul.
O and it's down. So yeah,
Salford. Yes.
job done.
Yes, I appreciate it. I do a podcast with a mate of mine. He lives in London,
All right.
and I recorded with him after, and I think I might have said Salford twice, and he was like, "Hey,
Salford.
bro, you got to stop that." He actually
Fair
said it
play.
much
Yeah.
more angry, and there were more
Yeah.
some expletives. He basically called me an idiot. He's like, "You sound so stupid. Like, say it the right way." And
S-
I appreciate that.
It's spelled Salford. You're
Yes.
absolutely right, but it's an O. It's an
Yeah,
O. Yeah.
and I love that, and honestly, respect to you for just like that. It probably hit you like a nail every single time, and you just put up
Ah,
with it for
it's
45
okay.
minutes.
It's all right. We were getting to know each other then.
That right? That like
Yeah.
the kindness of the man you are. I know who you are already. But yeah, this match 8-0. So
Wow.
you went to the match. How was the experience? That's where I want to really like
All right.
get stuck in about is overall the experience there and all of that.
Right. I think I mentioned on the last episode that I've been to the Etihad once before, which was
Mhm.
just the day before I got married, well over a decade ago. So I wasn't expecting it to be much different. I remember on that day, I was so impressed by how nice the stewards were, how efficient everything was, how much space there is on the concourse, just what a good setup it is. right?
Mm.
So I'll give them that. And exactly the same situation here, where they have the coaches parking. We took 4 coaches, which is 4 times more than we normally do. So we took,
Wow.
like I said, I think over 5,000 fans. Not all of them are regulars because we don't have a fan base that big. But in terms of atmosphere, I will say that we were very boisterous. We were like the away fans making it. And we kept singing to, you may have heard it on TV, is this a library? Is this
Yes.
a library? Yeah. We normally get that sung to us because we're quiet at home. But when we
Yeah.
take all the big lads away, we start singing. But for a club that is so successful, there is definitely, you talked about imposter syndrome. There is
Yeah.
still something in your fan base that has not, you've not got the chip on the shoulder
Yeah.
yet. It
Hmm.
has to come at some point if you continue to be successful. So it's very odd to see this amazing stadium, this team that destroyed us, but this fan base who are still kind of, can we believe we're this good yet? Or is the other shoe gonna fall? It's bizarre.
Hmm. You are spot on, and I'm happy you say it. I complain about it for one here in the U.S. I can't complain about it over there because I'm not there to experience. But
Hmm.
any Man City U.S. event, I have now been to 3 Man City U.S. games here. I went to 2 of them over the last summer.
Okay.
They are very timid. I will walk past someone in head to toe City gear like me, and I'll be like, "Come on, City," and they'll be like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "No, you just repeat it back to me." It's 2 words. You can't do that, and just the energy that they have, it's just like, woo. And unless it's a player or something like that, people that's when they go ah and they get all
Yeah.
excited. But it's the small things that I feel like a lot of the people have to learn, which is due, and because a lot of our fan base is new, I will give them that, and there aren't. It's hard to learn those ticks of the games unless there's someone specifically being like, "Hey, when your team earns a corner, you clap," like things like stuff like that. Where it will come in time, but I guess we will need our fan base to want to learn those things. But even those are very like shallow, small things. But just
Yeah.
being proud and loud, I guess it's good that we have that in Manchester and also here in the US that matches. And I get it. I say all the time, it's one of my first big bravado moments in our podcast was people see us as the big evil empire. You can yell and scream all you want. Trust me, I have. That's how they're always going to see us. And unless we embrace it, it's really going to break us. So, like, we just have to realize we're Darth Vader, bro. Like, so, like, unfortunately, start doing your thing. And I know it's not a great way to think of it. And we are great
No,
people. We are great
I,
people, but
I
we're
hear
the
that.
evil empire. Yeah.
One thing that I will say as well is that
Ooh,
if we were playing another big team, let's say we were playing Manchester United at Old Trafford,
yeah.
because both sets of fans were in Manchester City Centre yesterday, having a lots of Guinnesses and other things. We'll go back to Guinness again, right? So,
Yes.
and any other fan base, so like if it was Salford and Man City fans, Manchester United fans mingling, I'm sensing there would have been some trouble.
Yes.
I don't think there was any yesterday, and I put that down more to the City fans because City are a notoriously non-violent fan base from my
Yes.
perspective, and and
Yes.
and I'm eternally grateful for that because my stepdaughter came on the coach with us
Mm,
yesterday. She's 25 and she was like, "Is it going to be all right at the ground? There's a lot of people
mm.
there. It's a sellout, etc. Is it going to?" And I said, "It's Man City. It's going to be pleasant. It's going to be civilized." There we go.
I love to hear that about.
You're not paying me to say that. It's true.
Yeah. Well, and I say the evil empire, it's more of a like a mentality. Like it's almost like an armor of ourselves out because I know so many people and representatives and workers for city and they're all stand out individuals. Like they're just
Mhm.
the greatest people. And it is just unfortunate that because of some people have perceptions that it is kind of just put this haze over what the club and honestly the true people who represent the club are.
Exactly. I hear that. It's very well said. Happy. Yeah, got you.
Appreciate that. And Also, Pep invited, I wanted to get your perspective on this. Pep invited the Salford players into the locker room. What are your thoughts on that? And his answer was that was something that they used to do back in the time, meet the
All right.
players, swap shirts, experience the locker room.
Pre
I
or
meant no
post
harm
game?
by it.
When was
Post
this?
match. It was
Post
post
match.
match.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I've had. There's a transfer rumor of a player that's just left our team that I've been caught up on doing lots of work on the internet about. So I haven't paid any attention to post
No
match stuff
worries.
with.
I'm happy to
So
help.
yeah. So you filled me in. What do I think of that as a hot take, which you don't really say in England, but I'll say it because I think it's an American thing,
It
right?
is. You nailed it.
I get it. I think it's the right terminology for this. So I'm hearing it now. I think it's kind. I'm surprised that someone as intense and passionate as Pep Guardiola would do that, but he lives in Salford. He
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 said
he
that.
he understands. I think I know where he lives. I won't say it, but I think I know
Naturally,
the
yes.
area he lives at.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a very kind thing to do because we have a substantial number of young players in our team, but bearing in mind how much we'll talk about the game later, how much the different levels of our quality players versus your quality players, that massive gap,
Hmm.
they will probably never, probably any of them, play in that level again, apart from our goalkeeper. And we'll come to the fact that 8 goals went in, say what you want. That goalkeeper will be playing for one of the top clubs in Europe, never mind England, in the next few years. I
Yeah.
guarantee that.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. But that is the only one I will say from our starting lineup that will probably play in those kind of environments again. So for him to take them behind the scenes, to do all that, that's very kind-hearted, and it may have actually taken a bit of the hurt away. But
Mm.
we're all about the league now. You know, we want to get up, we want to get promoted, and the cup is over, but the money's in the bank. We're happy.
Hey, and if you're happy, we're happy. If you
Yeah,
like it, I love it. That's what I
we're
always
okay.
say. Great. Okay. Well, that's all of the niceties and all of those things. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let's get to the match.
do it.
Actually, let's start with the keeper. I completely agree with you. He was amazing. He is a big guy, and that's what you do love about a keeper. People, you would get the occasional person being like, he's tied to City, and I'm pretty. We hosted a watch along for the match, and we're
All right,
hosting watch alongs for every Manchester City match, men and women's, for the rest of the season.
brilliant.
And I my response simply is he is a U21 keeper for the Lions and potentially the future keeper for the Lions.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, every English club is looking at him. That makes sense. So, I mean, naturally tying someone to City that bumps his value up. And I hope you are able to, whenever he leaves the club, make as much money for him that you can.
He's not ours. I wish. Listen, I wish he was. He's actually
Oh,
the
yeah, he's
current.
alone.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
yes,
current
you told
England
me.
goalkeeper Jordan Pickford is also ex Sunderland. He came through their academy. This lad is
Oh,
also Sunderland academy. They have a very good
Sunderland.
pathway. So yes, Sunderland who are now doing brilliantly in the Championship. So that area of the world is great for keepers in the last 10 to 15 years.
Interesting. Appreciate that little tidbit of information.
Pleasure,
I mean,
pleasure.
that's let's go. Okay. Well, overall, hold on. I'm trying to think of people specifically from your club
Okay.
that either uh on the match who either impressed me, just made me feel some sort of emotions. I mean, shout out to your attackers. They did try,
Hmm.
and I got very worried. Our center fielder, our center backs, O'Reilly. Naturally, he's attacking midfielder. He's being tossed in a weird position.
Yeah.
He didn't do great when it came to. I mean, actually, he did great when it came to aerial duels. He was one of the few. Simpson Pusey was called upon a couple of times. Ake was okay.
Yeah.
So I really want to shout your forward line for that. But my biggest feeling about anybody on your team was Tilt. I do not like that guy. He's a little shit.
Well, he's. I mean, I've been watching a few wrestling documentaries recently, and I think the phrase "heel" does that mean
Yeah.
anything to like? So he is the heel. He is the bad guy. He's the villain of the
Hmm.
piece. He's the bully. I did say he would try to bully whoever he's going to play. It's the only way he can actually succeed. He used to be like a forklift truck driver when he was before he was a professional footballer. He's not been always a pro footballer,
That's dope,
and
though.
he just he puts the shift in.
Yes,
He's
he does.
dirty when he has to be, which is most of the time. So yeah, every team feels the
Let's
same. You're
go,
not alone.
though.
You're not alone.
Well, and I see it and I respect it, especially where the league your club plays in.
Yeah,
I feel like every team kind of needs that guy. I mean, even in every way, we had Fernandinho. Like, what were you talking about? Like, I understand that. Like, what
yeah.
you do what you got to do sometimes for your club to succeed, and not everyone can do it beautifully and majestically. Sometimes you got to get in there and rough up some people. Like,
Can I tell
and
you his nickname?
please.
The Axeman.
Oh, let's go. That's
He's the
yes,
Axeman.
definitely he's a heel.
He'll
Most
chop you
he's
down like the old
perfect.
dead tree. He'll chop you down. Yeah,
I
he'll take
love
you out.
that. and,
Justice. Yeah.
and shout out, we actually have a wrestling podcast in our network. It's called Your
Oh wow.
Favorite Wrestling Podcast. So
Fab.
yes,
Okay.
we are fans of wrestling over here at the Shades of Blue Network.
Mad.
Okay, what was your perspective? What did you see? Whatever you can remember from City playing, what were something that stuck out, what something that took some time to hit you? Like, let's just talk it through. There's nothing. The goals were the goals. They were fun, they were exciting. I feel
Yeah.
ways about the players, but I really want I'm a big fan of just, I can get your perspective better by just hearing how you talk about football more
All
than
right.
at this time this happened. What were
Oh
your
yeah.
thoughts on this?
On my podcast, on the one up front, I very rarely mention goals unless it illustrates something about that player or about the tactics. So it just depends. But again, the vibe on this podcast, it was the same when I was at last time. I love the fact I feel I can say anything I want, and we're going to
Please.
be able to work with that.
Yes.
So I've got one surname for you, Doku.
Let's
Terrifying.
go.
Terrifying. Like I've got to say one thing. The podcast I released today was called Explosion, Not Implosion, and the reason is that seeing it live, when Doku was getting the ball, he would stop like it was an exhibition game, and he'd stop and he would make his defender stop, which was normally our right centre back Liam
Mhm.
Shepherd, possibly number 32. Can't quite remember the squad number. And as soon as he got Liam Shepherd to stop moving his feet, he would explode. And I just thought, I've never seen this before. I thought Liam Shepherd is a good player in our league. Liam Shepherd is a is a better than League Two player, but he's often injured. And from a standing start, he had no chance because of the explosion of Doku. And I know he cost 50 odd million pounds or whatever he did. He's a very expensive, talented player. But to see the chasm of talent and athleticism in that one dynamic in that duel was breathtaking. And there was
Mm.
and I'll give you one other thing. Anyway, Gwenny, I'll hand the Doku ball to you. Do you want to talk about Doku?
I, all I simply want to say is we absolutely adore him on our podcast. He
Right,
gets a lot of grief because of the final ball. Like,
right.
they just go, he's so great in duels, and then he does. And it's just like he brings us so much joy. What are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
There was a lot of missing in the 2 months that City weren't playing well, and when he came on the field, like you said, it was breathtaking. And
Well,
sure, goals wouldn't come from it, but the energy that the team should receive from watching this person play destroy our opponents and trying to supply a goal should make his teammates want to play harder and better and match his greatness. And for a while, it wasn't. And since he wasn't putting the goals up for a silver platter for Holland, and he was doing the most, but nothing was coming from it, he was
Yeah.
getting a lot of the vitriol, and it
Yeah.
was misplaced. We hated it. So
Got
trust
you.
me when I say I'm going to clip up your part about Doku and push it so hard. I appreciate it so much. It's like it literally brought joy to my heart.
I've got no agenda. I have no agenda. I don't watch enough Premier League football to know who is good and who is bad. I did mention to you that I thought that Leicester player, the Moroccan, El something or other,
Yes.
thought he was a great player based on 45 minutes. So it's a snap emotional reaction
Mm-hmm.
to feats of greatness. That's what it is, and you're never able to understand that more than when you see a player at the absolute top end, maybe not of world football, but at least of Premier League football,
Mm-hmm.
against someone who is a very, very good professional footballer, but from several leagues below. Couldn't cope. Every time there was a give and go, we were completely lost. There's one other thing I'd like to ask about, though, because it goes back to the Leicester game. Now, are we okay going there?
Yeah, of course, please.
Leicester, because I wanted to mention this in the last one, but I was annoyed at myself that I didn't mention it. That I talked about a few things tactically in that game. I felt that the formation, the press shape that they had against you for Leicester was like a compact, narrow four against your back three.
Yes.
I'll say that, and the reason I thought they did that is they wanted to stop you going through the middle. That was what I felt, right? And again, I could be so far off base because I'm seeing very, very small 45-minute segments. And I don't know if Doku played in that game. Maybe he did. Maybe. Do you remember if he played against Leicester at all off the top of your head?
I think he might have came on late, but I cannot quite
Okay,
remember.
Savinio
Yes.
definitely played. He was, I think, he
Yes.
was the left-sided player, and Savinio, I think maybe he came on yesterday. Don't know, but my point is, when you've got wingers with pace to burn, athleticism, and explosion like you have, I thought, why do Leicester want to send you out to that area of the pitch? But it's kind of like which at some point a team has to decide which way do I want to get beat. You have to surrender some space on the field. You can't cover every blade of grass with 11 players. So I just found it very interesting that like I said, they had these front four who were kind of keeping as you said, it's a 3-2-4-1, which you are so. Of course, you're right. You're the expert on City here. And they also, as well, had some midfielders pushing up onto those two in front of your back three, Rico Lewis and Kovacic, to block the lanes to those players. I thought they had a brilliant game plan against you there. And I was hoping that we would try and replicate that. But you have to have the ingredients to be able to replicate it, to even get close to City. And we didn't have those. So we could never play on an equal footing, no matter what we did.
Yeah. And Pep loves uh I'm trying to figure out the most succinct way to describe it. So there's two things I feel about Pep Ball, because
Mhm.
he does 90% of the work, and he'll even say it. I can only help them get in front of goal. What they do there is all up to them. And that is where we have struggled this year. And you also need a belief and a confidence. And for a while, that was missing. It seems like it's back, even though it was a lot of young players, but that will even lighten the mood for the veterans on the squad, because now they don't have to feel like they need to carry the squad, quote unquote, because we
Yeah,
got these young bucks here ready to step in and help whenever they need to.
yeah,
But players, he wants us wide players to be as wide as possible, so there is more space in the half channels, which then the ball gets closer inside, which is the better shot. We have been known for spamming crosses in whenever we are struggling, because teams force us wide all the time. They love a bank of 10 players. Eventually, we completely understand a low block. That
hmm
is a big reason as to why Arsenal are struggling right now, because they haven't quite figured out how to handle a low block. Pep has admitted that he, at moments, doesn't quite understand with the squad how to break down a low block. It is what it is. But
Can we credit Salford that we didn't try to play a low block yesterday?
No, and we would not have scored as many goals as we had if
Yeah.
not
So
Salford playing with us, and that is a huge bit of respect. Like
yeah, we
1,000%,
tried.
I
Yeah.
love that. And
Yeah.
I mean, you said that the team plays to win, and
Yeah.
there were so many games in the FA Cup where, yeah, they tried to hold back. And I asked my show bros during the beginning of the watch along, I was like, hey, all these other Premier League teams who faced lower league opposition, they won 4, 5 goals.
Yeah.
City should score that, right? And they were like, I don't know. And even in the Breaking Bread, I said 3-1, but that's just where the club was. Once I saw the lineup completely change, fully embraced the youth. I
Yeah.
knew this was going to be they were going to be running. There's no way the kids
Yeah.
are going to be patient and hold the ball. That was absolutely not happening. And Gundo struggled because of that. There were many moments when
Okay.
Gundo would make a pass to a player and they were thinking run and he was thinking stay back, or they would try to pass it to him like a little
Yeah.
flick on something, which he would then run into space. And he was just standing flat footed with no intention ever to be running when he received the
No.
ball. And that was very unfortunate that Gundo mentally doesn't seem to be linked with the club. Like
Yeah.
he has we know he has the technical abilities and all that stuff, but I
Hmm.
just don't think he's here for what City need him to be here for, I guess, if that makes any
I'll just
sense.
say one thing, and this is again potentially complete ignorance of what the club is trying to do. Sometimes, when in the transfer market you can't find what you need, your ideal candidate, you go for a placeholder.
Hmm.
And there's no better placeholder to kind of keep things just ticking over, even though I know you've not done that well, than one you've already had in the past. And
Yes.
maybe that's what he is. To fill a
Hmm.
gap in your squad, maybe he's had to play more than anticipated, and his
Hmm.
legs have gone because he's had so many. You were talking about how many minutes he had against for Barcelona the year he was whatever. So I get all that. But he's tried, he's trusted, and they know what to expect from him, and he's not an unknown. So I think
Yes.
that goes in his favour, doesn't it? I suppose.
Again, from a very small view or time looking at City, you're nailing it. That is exactly it. They admitted that if he wouldn't have become available for free, there's no way they even would have asked about him because there
Right.
was no intention of bringing in another player in the summer transfer window. They're making moves now come winter, which is very exciting and needed, especially with the team on an upward trend. Adding on players is an extra boost. And all of these things that Pep has been kind of talking about is
Mhm.
I just need my players to get confident. Who I have is great. I just need them back. I just need the players to believe in themselves, take their time, make the passes. How many times do we go from left to right to left to right? Just take your time. And look, here we are. Be patient. It'll come. It'll figure it out. There are a lot of changes going through this club right now. I mean, Kyle Walker and his transfer insanity, that was not expected.
Yeah.
The club is still not humming, but to have this victory, we're appreciating it. We are I promise you, anybody who is trying to be like, oh, it's Sulfur City, we are shutting that down immediately. It's you can only beat whoever's in front of you, and I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
that in the most respectful way you can say
I
that. Like,
understand that completely. No
and
offense.
Pep
Yeah.
spoke very highly of your team as well. He spoke about how you were on the run of eight of nine, and
Yeah. Yeah. Clean
it's
sheets.
yes, exactly. And I
We've
did it
made up
with
for it now. We're back on average. Yeah.
that's fair. And we are always here to respect who we play, and that's the part of joy, and that's also the part of the FA Cup is especially early on is you never know who you're going to face, so enjoy the moments for what they are.
Could I want to ask one question? You mentioned about
Please.
spamming crosses, so I understand that. Again, I can't speak to what I've seen. I wouldn't say that I saw anything resembling a cross from City yesterday.
Yes.
I saw cutbacks. Am I seeing right? Am I seeing the right thing? Is that because you were getting wide, but they were flat cutbacks into our area, causing us to um, do something in our pants because we were panicking? basically.
Well, I the spam hitting crosses is when City are in dire straits and they can't seem to
Right.
figure something out.
High
They just
crosses.
yes,
High
yeah,
crosses, yeah, okay.
they're just hitting it up, and oftentimes it's when we're missing Holland, and so we're trying to do high crosses for like Foden and stuff like that. It makes no
Oh god,
sense.
yeah. Right, okay.
So I'm talking about very specific circumstances, which Man City fans are probably like hurting because they're like, why would you even bring that up anyway?
Yeah.
And I meant me bringing it up, not you. But sorry, what were we talking about
I was just
overall?
talking about my reality of experience of your crosses
Yes,
was
the
flat
cutbacks.
cutbacks,
Yes,
not
okay.
high spam. Yeah.
So we knew, like you said, the club would be Salford, and the players would be playing with intensity, like flying up, trying to get the ball, snuff the ball out. That's perfect for the cutback because they're not really thinking about the second or the third play, which is what I have been wanting to see from City. That's kind of patience to know, hey, they're going to run up. So instead of hitting it up for Mubama, who is pretty decent in the air, but his hold up play he showed, he came back a lot for the ball. That was very beautiful to see. That's what we want to see more of from Holland, if we're going to be honest. And I hope Pep kind of gives it to Holland to be like, did you see Mubama? Because that is exactly what I need to see from you. He came back all the time and played very well off his team and immediately turned around and attacked, which frees up the wide players, which frees up the person on the ball because now you're forcing your opponent to make a decision. And from
Yes.
there, it buys you a moment to hopefully make the better choice, which a lot of the times our City players did. So that was good to see.
I'm going to add one other tactical observation from our
Please.
side that we've made a living recently by very successfully playing a man-to-man defensive marking pressing system, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we tried to play that against you. Fatal. I mean, how are you going to win your battle against? Because in a man-to-man system, once one person's beaten, you're kind of beaten.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if listen, if Cal Robinson may be watching this, he's aware of me. He's been on my podcast, so he may be watching this. I don't know.
Well, hello, and hopefully I'm
I'll
giving
soon
him good
find out.
information. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll soon be made aware of it if he's watched it. But I thought it was very ambitious to play a man-to-man marking system against your team. What did you think? Did you agree that you thought it was that?
Yeah, Pep acknowledged it himself. He McAtee struggled for most of the match. I understand he scored a hat trick, but it was
Yeah.
in what 15 minutes again. Like he got hot for a moment. The team got
Hmm.
hot for the moment, making the substitutions. It's fresh legs against a dead tired Salford squad. You know that you didn't do too much changing of players.
Yeah.
It's tough to play that hard and focused, relentless for 90 minutes against a squad you know is better.
Yeah.
And I, I tell the story all the time. I grew up playing rugby. One time we played this team that was a bunch of they were technically old boys, but they were old international players for New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. And
Wow.
they were started in the East Coast and they just went on a US tour playing down to the coast.
Yeah.
We got smacked. It was like 115-3. We got one kick because of a high tackle.
Okay.
So we got the 3 points.
Nice
But
penalty. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, but in that loss, I learned so much. It was incredible to like. I thought I had the guy with the ball. I tackle the guy. He'd be like, "Nice tackle," and they're basically about to score, and nothing has moved. They
You
just
are
always
Liam
had,
Shepherd in that instance. It's Doku
yeah,
versus Shepherd. Yeah, I know.
exactly, exactly. Like
Gross.
and after the match, we drank beers together and laughed and talked and learned, and they went on to the next town to beat them by 100 points. Like
Yeah.
that's what they did. They just went down, but it helps inspire and push and grow, and you see where you can be better. Hopefully your
Yeah.
players are looking at it and taking this as a positive. Hopefully your manager Carl is like, all right, I see what I'm doing, what I could be doing. I 1,000% respect to the man marking, because yes, McAtee struggled in it for a time, but because he did
Mhm.
that, Doku was able to thrive and do his thing. A lot of teams, they're putting 2, 3, 4 players on them, giving telling your players to man mark. I'm sure they take a lot of pride in that because now it is kind of on you and how you have to play, which is a cool thing. We say on our podcast, zone is for cowards, and we hate zonal marking on set pieces and things like that. But
Yeah.
I feel like you need to give responsibility onto the players. Like some zone, I get it, but just like completely relying on people to come in and out of your space, that's a lot for someone to focus when the ball is moving so quickly
I
and
know.
all of that other
I know.
stuff. Yeah. So respect to your manager, respect to the man marking. You saw correctly. Pep appreciated it. And there were some players who did struggle on it. So hopefully your manager doesn't feel too like overwhelmed or that he felt your club, because truly it like you guys should feel a lot of pride from their performance.
No, I appreciate that. I think for me, it was a pragmatic decision by our manager. He's been instilling that mindset of front-footed defending,
Mm-hmm.
push up, as far as you can, and that's going to cause problems that you can then capitalize on. It's very ambitious, as I
Yes,
said, to try and expect to do that to City, but for him to unwind that and try and give different messages for one game that you're not expected to win, even though I put a bet on us to win, which was very silly because it was good odds, that I think that would have been more disruptive than getting beat. If we would have
I'm with you.
trained in a different philosophy for a week, silly. And also, I think
I'm
it
with
shows
you.
the strength of character on Cal Robinson that he wasn't concerned with keeping the score down. And he didn't really change much in the match because I don't think he thought he was going to win the match, but I think he just wanted to show the players that just play how you play. And we basically,
Mm-hmm.
even though we had less of the ball, we had less of everything, really. But sometimes we got on the edge of our seat. We were up, In fact, all of us stood all through the game. Not everybody was used to that. My stepdaughter and wife were like, "Are we going to stand up? Our backs are going to hurt. Our bums going to hurt." But we were stood up all the game. But we were excited at points. But the occasion itself was unforgettable. Seriously unforgettable. To be there, forget the
Love that.
goals. We were at City. They played us. We've seen Matty Young in the Etihad before he's England's number one. There was a lot of things going on, and I said, for us, money is survival. So we've got a lot of money out of that game, which is crucial to us.
And that means a lot. And this is, I feel like these are kind of the small things that in the like, the banter era that we seem to be in football media content creation, that
Mm-hmm.
umbrella term that we sit in. It's very tough because when I was first getting into football, the FA Cup, the Carabao, like those were the things that history, knowing, respecting your opponents. Those were the things that I very much was like. I can't say people bore into me because everything that I have learned from City up into really me starting the podcast, I learned on my own because I really wasn't even aware there was like football Twitter and things like that. I was just
Yeah.
posting to avoid about Manchester City until one day someone like commented back, and then all of a sudden I started following them, and then I found there was all this other people and I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
is great. Now I get why people love Twitter. This is hilarious.
Can be good. Yeah.
That was a long time ago though. That's not now. Shout out to Blue Sky. But yeah, it's the culture. City, we won the Carabao so many 4 years in a row. That was
Okay.
our trophy that helped City believe, hey, we can win something consistently.
Yeah.
And I hate that nowadays because our goals are so lofty that I have a show bro. He calls it the I don't care about cup. That's how they feel about it. But every single year, I'm like, hey, is this the year we finally take it seriously enough to win? We don't like, I would love for us to lift that again and remind us of who we are. And once Pep leaves, our expectations might have to change where we might need that. And that might need to be the first trophy that we win to make us believe that we can go win the Premier League, because that's what it once was used was, hey, it's the
Yeah.
first trophy you can win for the year. That's a great way to start the season.
I'd love to ask you this, and it's not to do with Salford at all. It's to do with dynasty managers. I've noticed that Man United have had are still unable to resolve the problem post Ferguson. It's not been resolved, regardless of winning a cup game today. It doesn't matter. Arsenal struggled. They had, well, I think they had either one or two managers, maybe one in between. Unai Emery, probably, I think it was, before Arteta.
Yes.
And Arteta
Yeah.
did not start well. People forget
No.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Arteta nearly got fired. And I just want to say one thing that I meant to say the other day. I think there's a slight parallel, and it's also because Arteta was under Pep at City. That,
Mm-hmm.
and I said on the last episode with you about Pep not wanting to play youngsters until they've fully proven themselves. Arteta was very reluctant to even play Bukayo Saka at times when he first joined, and then when players started to prove they were undroppable, then he had to, and then he started getting rid of Aubameyangs, people like that. So I just think, I wonder if there's almost like a culture within the City family tree that was imparted from Pep to Arteta, that you don't play young players. But I'm happy to park that. But I'm just going to say that, do you think that you will be a post Pep hangover team like United have been, or will you be a Liverpool where it's seamless from Klopp to Slot?
I would love to believe that it's a Klopp to Slot situation. Time will
Yeah,
tell. I think Viana coming in a year early, Pep it still has 2 more years to go. That will help with the transition. Pep can help Viana see the future and kind of mold it to what his vision is, and the most post Pep vision is, and then we can
yeah.
bring that manager in and set us up in the best circumstance. The way ever since Vincent Company, he started at Burnley, because first off, we hate Burnley. People who know about Burnley know why we would hate Burnley. So
Right.
he was there, and we wanted him to get rid of it, but I understand it's a good first step. We never expected him to go to Bayern. I don't think really anyone saw that coming. That's a huge jump and an amazing experience. I feel like that accelerates things as well. In 2 years, if or when Pep steps down, Company might come home, and I would love that. There are plenty of other amazing young up and coming managers who are hungry to prove themselves that I would like to believe would come in and fit Man City. So I think the transition will be smooth.
Yeah, well, fair enough. And I'll just say one thing on Vincent Company, that I remember Burnley pre-Company being a slow
Mm-hmm.
journeyman, unathletic,
Mm-hmm.
end of the career, defensive minded under Dyche, and that's who they were. And then
Yep.
I just happened to watch one of the games midway into his first season, and I thought, what's happened? Who are these? Who's this? Like, I think they had a fella on loan from Chelsea called Matson. Amazing
Mm-hmm.
athlete, up and down the fullback, and the way he transformed that team. I didn't watch him very often, but I absolutely loved what I thought he was trying to do. So if that's what your dream is, then that's a dream. I would rather see a company team at City than I would a Pep team, because I think Pep's
Oh,
shown me all he wants, not because he's better, just
yes,
because
that's
it's
fair.
more to my liking. Trust me, I'm not silly. I'm not that silly.
I didn't take it
Yeah.
that way.
No. Just for anyone who's listening who's gonna come after me. No, it's fine.
Oh, I would love to believe that Shady Gang, that's who we call our listeners and supporters and things
Okay,
like that. Like, even your Shady Gang, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Man City fan, because we do a lot
got
of
you.
work with people that aren't City. But Shady Gang were a relatively peaceful group of people.
Perfect.
We just don't back down from a fight. So like,
Okay.
that's how we work. Uh, and also I wanted to mention about Pep doesn't play young players. There
Yeah.
are so many young players out there balling at right now all over the world, honestly. Like, and we used to joke about that. Is we'd be watching a random match and be like, "That's an old CFG player. That's an old CFG player. That's an old." And while we were struggling, we're playing these teams with players that Pep either decided weren't good enough at this moment because we saw the promise. But can we
Yeah.
wait while we're winning Premier Leagues, while we're trying to win Champions Leagues? You
Yeah.
can't wait for those players,
Get it.
unfortunately. And a lot of those players don't want to be sent on loan for 6 years in a row until
No.
they become Premier League ready. And so, yeah, again, very accurate, astute observation that I'm hoping a match like this can show Pep, especially this time where they're losing, the fact that he's leaving, how Pep sees and expects a football team to be. I think he needs to back off a little bit on that for the
Okay.
sake of the club type of vibes, where he loves a small roster. He recently has admitted that, hey, maybe I was wrong because of all these injuries. Maybe I need more players. That has been an interesting thing. Even today, he's the way that he phrased it stuck out to me. He said, "We don't have a long squad," which to me, I think he meant like we don't have a big squad. Again,
Mm.
maybe harping that we need more players,
Yeah.
which is what I love to hear. Is that's a change in what he even said 3 months ago, what he even said 2 months ago. Honestly, it was like December where he started being like, you know what, maybe we do need more players. And everybody was like, wait, what? So this has been kind of fun to see that he's backing off. He's changing his very stern ways. I don't want to say rigid because
Hmm.
honestly, I believe the way that Pep wants his football to be played is one of the most beautiful. We've seen it for years on all of his teams that it's beautiful football. So when people call it boring and rigid and stuff like that, it's up to the players to play to the beauty that Pep teaches them. And I'm a big believer in that.
No, that's absolutely fine. Where we going
Perfect.
next? Anything else you want to cover? Because I don't know if I've got any off the top of my head.
I don't have anything either. Like I said, any specific about the match because I have a recording later with my show bros anyway. I'm gonna
Okay.
dive into conversation with that. I really
Yeah.
like this is a wonderful conversation because it helps me like give a more direct perspective for our show for our listeners, and
Yeah.
now I can rely on the things that you said. Honestly, a couple of things that you said, I'm going to clip for the pod to be like, hey, like he said this thing, this is great. Like you gave us plenty of great insight on your club and especially on Man City. So I'm so happy that your experience was great and it was a nice one for you and the Salford people. And like truly, I'm happy that this was a good experience. And I if you ever need me for anything, like literally
Oh,
anything, please hit me up.
that's brilliant. I mean, I'll add one thing to the experience. I mean, I didn't eat in the stadium because I thought it was going to be good, but I thought it might be a bit overpriced. And also, I find I take my tactical analysis so seriously. I find if I eat in a stadium, it actually makes me slightly drowsy, and I'm not as attentive. That's
Let's
to me. I'm that
go.
primed. You know, you just it's just amazing. But anyway, my wife was hungry, so my wife said, "Right, I want a pie. I want a meat and potato pie. That's what you're going to get at it." And she got it, and she said it was phenomenal. It was the
Let's go.
perfect temperature, Michelin star quality, just over £5, which is not too much. And I smelt it. I could smell the aroma of it, and it was a beautiful thing. So, and I'll tell you one other thing as well. So you'll find this right when you come in early Feb, yeah.
Yeah.
Newcastle, you said, I think it was the Newcastle game. Um, if you get there early enough, and there's not loads and loads of people in the concourse waiting to go into the seats, um, the attentiveness of the people waiting to serve you food, they're like they kind of as soon as they're trying to get eye contact with you, they're so eager to serve you. I understand it's a capitalist business; they want you to buy things, but they couldn't have been nicer. And I've been to so many football stadiums, admittedly, most of them in the lower divisions. Some people are there like you're doing them a favor by,
Mm-hmm.
like they don't want to be there. They're not interested in serving you, or you want a pie. Whereas the city ones, that there's a whole atmosphere there that is very pleasant, and it feels like there's very good training going on. I could honestly say that. It feels like everyone on that line was ready to serve you, eagle-eyed, wanting to catch your eye, wanting to do something to help you.
That's
And
dope.
that, in English football, is very, very, very rare.
Let's go. And I feel like
Clip
that
it
is a
up. Get it
fantastic.
clipped.
Yeah. Oh, what a way to end this.
Yeah?
Please, once more, plug yourself, let people know where they can find you and the things that you do.
All right. One Up Front podcast. So I've got an episode out today which reviewed yesterday's game. It's 1 hour, 44 minutes. So, it's just me talking about the game for that long. And I don't cover many of the aspects that I've talked about today. So it's different. And you can find it on Spotify, One Up Front, Salford City, or on Twitter. The link will be on there eventually. One Up Front SCFC. And the fanzine, which I know we talked about in the last episode, is the replacement of the match day program at Salford City. We don't do a match day program because it wasn't selling well enough. We've now injected some fan enthusiasm into it. I'm writing articles. A lot of really good people, including professional journalists, are writing articles. We've got very, very well designed covers. And that's the Old Dead Tree. So that's Old Dead Tree SCFC on Twitter. And if you were to message me, I can organize it to be sent internationally if you
No,
want it
I
to
was
be
actually
sent
going to
anywhere
ask
in the
if you
world.
have. Yeah, I'll message you after because I would
Oh,
love
wow.
them.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do a
Yeah,
freebie for you. No problem. No issue.
that would mean a lot.
Sorted.
No, this would
Happy.
be good. I'll get it framed. I'll put it up. It'll be back behind here under this photo. Look at all this wall I need to fill in.
We actually released, we were selling it before we got on the coach yesterday. There's a new issue that came out pre game yesterday. So that's the one I'll send you. It's not got City on it, but it's got elements of referring to the previews and what we think about the game, about the
Yeah,
team, about the club.
that's fine.
So that you deserve that for sure. Coming
No,
your
that'd
way.
be great. Let's go. All right. Well, this truly has been a pleasure. And Shady
Nice.
Gang, please enjoy. Go follow. Go check them out. And we will be back with our weekly episode in a day or so. I want to let this review breathe a little bit and let
Yeah.
people enjoy. And then we'll have an episode out for you in a couple days. Check out our Patreon, $6 a month. You get to hear amazing guests like Danny, where we bring on for our match preview series. We have an interview series where we bring other just brilliant football minds who are writers. They may work for a certain sporting company or
20
things
hours
like
of
that.
content. Yep.
Hey, 20. Hey, look at this person. Oh, a fucking legend you are,
Here he
Danny.
is. 20 hours. 20 hours
20
plus.
hours a month. Yes, a month that you can get for $6. What a deal. All right, Shady Gang. You know the vibes. Shady Gang, Shady Gang, Shady Gang.